Hey, what's up? Welcome back. This was one of those quick but meaningful updates that devs pushed shortly after launch. And while it isn't a balance shakeup or a content drop, it's the sort of tune-up that actually changes how the game feels in small but important ways. What the patch is mostly about is quality of life and stability. The big thread running through the notes in developer messages is settings and stability, meaning you'll find new options in the menus and fixes for some of the crashes and matchmaking issues players reported right after release. In practice, that looks like added input toggles and a handful of fixes that help the game run more reliably across platforms, rather than sweeping gameplay reworks. The studio emphasized getting community-requested options in place, things players asked for in the days after the launch, and that intention shows up throughout the change list. On the settings side, which is where the update really tries to make life easier for players, there are a few standout additions. Console players are getting finer control over things like field of view, which had been a frequent request since people started streaming the game. Having a proper FOV slider on consoles changes the sense of space and can make gunplay feel less cramped for players coming from other shooters. On PC, there are more graphics scaling options to help match performance with visual fidelity. And crucially, the input system saw additions that let you set crouch behavior to either hold or toggle across platforms, while aim down sights got a hold or toggle option on PC for now. Those two toggles alone can alter movement and aiming patterns in a big way, especially for players who prefer more deliberate control schemes. The developers acknowledged a few platform differences and said some options are PC first for the moment, while they work out controller rebinding and behavior on consoles. There's also an important note about localization in the menus. To get these changes out fast, some of the new options shift in English only and will be localized properly in a future patch. That's one of those trade-offs where the team prioritized speed over polish, so that players could access the features immediately, even if the translations lag a bit behind. It's not ideal, but for players who are waiting on things like toggle ADS or a proper FOV slider, getting the functionality now beats waiting for perfect localization later. On the technical side, the update includes a handful of crash fixes and matchmaking stability improvements. Multiple crash scenarios that were being reported by both PC and console players have been addressed, and there are general performance and stability improvements listed in the changelog. Those fixes tend to be the boring but essential ones: rare crashes, some matchmaking edge cases, and handshake improvements that should reduce weird disconnects mid-match. It's the kind of maintenance that isn't visible as new content, but it's very noticeable when it prevents you from losing progress or getting kicked out of a run. The community response has been a mix of relief and fresh reports. Relief that the devs are patching fast, and fresh reports because large updates can sometimes create new, unexpected issues. Some PC players noted the update size was fairly large, and that sparked threads trying to figure out exactly what changed and why the download footprint was significant. Those conversations are typical after a day one or rapid follow-up patch where engines or assets get swapped around. Players will often see big downloads even for what feel like small changes. For how this actually affects gameplay flow, the toggles for ADS and crouch let players tailor input behavior to their preferred style. If you're the kind of player who prefers a toggle for crouch because you like to move and peek without holding a stick down, that's now an option. If you prefer ADS to be a hold so your aim snaps back when you let go, that's also there on PC. Console players seeing the FOV slider get added should notice differences in how peripheral movement feels, how aim sensitivity maps across different FOVs, and how the game frames enemies at a distance. Small changes like these can shift what feels right in a match, so expect a little period of adjustment while everyone finds their new sweet spots. It's worth pointing out that the patch notes and coverage you're seeing across the community are pulling from official notes and developer posts, and third-party summaries have been curating those changes to make them easier to digest. The big takeaways repeated everywhere are consistent: settings improvements, stability fixes, and some platform-specific limitations that the team has flagged for later updates. So when you hear the same points coming up again and again, that's because everyone's reacting to the same core changes and the same early player experiences. If you've been playing since launch, you might notice less stuttering in matches or fewer mid-game disconnects after applying the patch. And the new options will let you experiment with controls without waiting for additional patches. The localization caveat means some menu labels might still be English if you use a different language, but the functionality should be present once you navigate to the right setting. Remember that sometimes these quick updates are iterative. A feature arrives in a limited form and gets refined in subsequent fixes, which is exactly what the studio seems to be doing here. Overall, this update reads like a careful course correction. Not flashy, but important. It addresses what the community called out immediately after launch, and adds options that make the game more approachable for players who come with different control expectations. It also aims to stabilize the experience so that matches are less likely to be interrupted by technical problems. For a first post-launch patch, that's exactly the kind of housekeeping many players want to see, the groundwork for smoother seasons and cleaner future updates.